right, and welcome back, everyone, to yet another episode of American Soccer Junkies. It's been a while. It's been since before the Gold Cup, but I'm back here, as always, with my good friend Steve Fogarty.
How's it going, everybody?
And today we're adding two more special guests, Paul Deedy and Matt Gibbons. Say hello, guys.
Hey,
Don't all speak at once now.
very excited to be here. Just have some dead air and then speak over one another.
So this should be fun. Should hopefully make it a lot more enjoyable for you guys to listen to if we don't step on each other's feet too much. It might also take away half our listeners because they're in the podcast now. But narcissism will see to it that we still get our views, and that's what's important to us. Anyway, it's been a busy couple weeks since we last talked to you. The U.S. Gold Cup champions. We haven't had the trophy in a couple years. Been Mexico kind of dominating both the A team with the 4-2 victory last time out, and in 2009 where we were present in the old Meadowlands, right, guys?
Yep, Old Giant Stadium.
Yep.
To go.
With a 5-0 shellacking after being 0-0 at the half. But all is right with the world again. The U.S. is on top. America. So, of course, it was weakened teams. We didn't even have to go through Mexico as much as CONCACAF always tries to push that Mexico-USA game until the final. This year, it kind of bit them in the ass because Mexico is kind of horrendous at the moment. And immediately after the Gold Cup, they called a press conference to issue the dreaded vote of confidence in their coach. So, anyway, the real question is, how does this Gold Cup victory really transfer going forward? Fogarty, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it speaks a lot to the fact that out of all the teams in CONCACAF, we are by far the deepest because we won this tournament. No Altidore, no Dempsey, no Bradley, no Jones, no Howard, no Beasler, no Gonzalez. Basically, DeMarcus Beasley, the only starter from the group that just won 9 points in World Cup qualifiers, and we can bring in a Landon Donovan or a Joe Corona and Eddie Johnson at the end. And we have a really deep player pool that it's never been this good before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we did have, as you mentioned, not having Beasler and Gonzalez. We had Beasler for the last couple games, and Gonzalez for 6 minutes. I can't even say really had him. But it's a good point. There are a lot of players here that, going into the tournament, we look at it and we think, well, these guys are on the fringe. They don't really have a chance. And then by the end of the tournament, you look at them, you watch them for 6 games, you think, well, these guys have a real shot to make an impact with the A team. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Well, I'd say the one thing I would take from it is that CONCACAF is garbage.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, I almost think it's hard to get a sense of it. Obviously, it's good to see, players do well and get results against the teams they're playing. That's all you can really ask. But yeah, from what I saw, all the opposition was pretty weak. Teams are just sort of not only untalented but disorganized.
Yep.
So I'd say my optimism is somewhat tempered by that. And so one thing I think I'd like to see how we do, against whether it's friendlies or whatever, against more quality opposition before I want to make any full pronouncements.
Yeah, it's one of the big issues with CONCACAF. It's a strange little federation. There's always some bizarre storyline popping up out of nowhere. But when you don't go through Mexico and you're playing a weakened Costa Rica, Panama, who we ran through with our A team, and it was they had more of an A team, but it was still a mix. We ran through them with our A team and struggled for large portions of the game in the final. But I don't know. I mean, you look at someone like Australia, how they really didn't feel any quality opposition in the OFC, so they moved up to Asia. I'm not saying we should go defect to South America or anything, but it'll be nice to see if we get that Copa America in 2016 between Copa Americas, where we can join in with those nations with better test of talent. Gibbons, what are your thoughts?
I think my takeaway from the Gold Cup was that it was really a great victory for Jürgen Klinsmann. It really inspired a lot of confidence in the team and the fan base, and he always seemed to make the right sub at the right time. Even in the final, from the press box, he managed to make the right sub at the right time. And going back to Fogarty's point, it's a very deep team, and he was able to utilize that to the best of his ability.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the roster that he called in, and when you looked at it, there's a lot of veterans, especially in the initial roster before Carlos Bocanegra got chopped off, and you had a team that had a lot of veterans that are trying to prove themselves that they're still relevant, and a lot of young guys that are trying to prove themselves should be relevant for this cycle and going forward. And you look, I mean, you got some nice performances all over the field. But what I was most interested was in that midfield area. You had Mick Stiskeroon, Joe Corona, Alejandro Bedoya, Stuart Holden, who's on the more veteran side before he got hurt, unfortunately. But you look at all those players, and you can see a lot of that young talent. So it wasn't just the depth; it was the development side of it too. Anyone want to add something to that?
Not particularly, no.
I had something for it.
What are your thoughts?
It's interesting because the team is deepest at the midfield anyway, and now you're just pouring depth upon depth upon depth where there aren't enough spots for all these players. Mick Stiskeroon's a great midfielder, but you have Jones and Bradley with Jeff Cameron as a more than qualified substitute if one of those two were to go down. Clint Dempsey is essentially your attacking midfielder in this formation with Landon Donovan ready to step in. So it's really hard to see Mick Stiskeroon getting on the field in any really huge World Cup qualifiers / World Cup games down the line. And it also takes away from the fact that we still have nobody who can defend.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Kyle Beckerman was... He went from the beginning of the Gold Cup when he was reviled to just... People have started to more appreciate as the games got a little bit tougher. I'm not saying it was exactly the toughest march to a title, as Paul was saying about CONCACAF. But you could see that he was able to kind of play through that and play the Jermaine Jones type role in a CONCACAF type format. He's not going to be able to do it to the skill of Jermaine Jones against some of the better teams, but he was able to really shore up the spot in front of that back line and help keep the other teams from exposing their deficiencies at the back.
Yeah, so do you know that this rap video that Kyle Beckerman did?
Oh, I heard about this before was it for the MLS All-Star game?
Yeah, I'm just seeing it now for the first time. He's wearing a hat. This guy's disgusting hair, so that's good.
Kyle Beckerman has yet to find conditioner that he likes.
Yeah, no. I usually get to find a method of bathing that he likes.
He needs a pair of wood chippers.
Pair of wood chippers?
Yeah, just to chop those locks off. Take a look at those.
I think you really don't understand how wood chippers work.
Yeah. Using a pair of them would just be difficult, I think.
Can we restart the podcast? Because now I feel like an idiot. After
Nope.
9 episodes, I finally say something really stupid.
Pair of wood.
Clearly you haven't been listening close enough to the first 8.
Oh, I don't listen to this at all.
Sorry, listeners. That's the truth. We don't listen to ourselves because we don't want to hear the truth about our own lack of skill.
Yeah. Speaking of knowing anyway.
Gibbons, do you have any other thoughts? Maybe not about the what to take from it, but about the Gold Cup in general.
Well, I'm surprised that we've spoken for so long about the Gold Cup without mentioning Landon Donovan yet.
Yeah.
As a casual American soccer fan, all I know is either Landon Donovan or Clint Dempsey. Clint Dempsey was not playing, so Landon Donovan was really the story in that his future is very much up in the air. Klinsmann kind of embarrassing him by making him go through the Gold Cup. I mean, that part is very much up for debate, but he's really proven, as much as the Gold Cup really can tell us, seems like he's back. Is he back? What does back really mean for Landon Donovan at this point in his career?
Mm-hmm.
And it posed some more questions, but what we saw in the Gold Cup had to be a good indicator of the future of Landon Donovan.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would say that's probably the biggest highlight of the entire tournament was seeing him back out there playing well, for our team. I think that's, one of the best, most encouraging signs, going into fingers crossed the World Cup next summer and, games against better opposition. He's a player I have faith in those games.
He also looked like he was having fun, which the reason he left soccer, I thought, was because maybe he got sick of soccer and, going through the grind of a full season. He looked like he was having a great time out there, celebrating every goal with vigor. Every time a call didn't go his way, he was furious. Near misses, just really demonstrative in his entire performance throughout the Gold Cup, which I think is a great sign that he's all in for 2014.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you did sort of get worried that it was just turning into a head case there, taking time off to do, God knows what, really. But, he looked like he was, as you said, enjoying it, and he looked like he was playing well.
Personally, I think we should all take a Cambodian vacation right about now. If that's what it does to you.
Hey, that's trademarked for my 3 up, 3 down post, by the way.
My apologies. Everyone should go read that post while you're listening to us.
I'm still waiting for Dave Chappelle to make his comeback after his African vacation.
I think he came. Didn't he do one interview on inside the actor studio, and then that was it?
Yeah, I think that might have been it.
He's also jacked now. Someone told me a picture last week. He's really, man. Yeah,
the reason he hasn't made a comeback is because he and DeMarcus Beasley are the same person.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure he did make a comeback. He was playing left back.
I would say this, though. When you talk about jack, that is one thing DeMarcus Beasley is not.
No.
He looks Spanish, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks like half-baked Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, he looks ill. He looks they don't beat him.
Now, since we're on the subject of DeMarcus Beasley, one thing I was reading something today. It might have been on Grantland or something like that. It's talking about how DeMarcus Beasley was given the captain's armband for this tournament, which seems to be the vote of confidence. Is someone getting arrested while we're on this podcast?
I'm sorry, guys. I just got arrested. No, it's going outside my window.
All right, yeah.
Sorry.
In nice, safe Brookline, the safest city. No, that's Newton. Sorry, but nice, safe Brookline. The cops going by. Anyway, DeMarcus Beasley, he had the vote of confidence to get the armband, and he's the one guy that's been starting a lot of games recently that was in this Gold Cup side. But do you think a thought that maybe has is now that Landon Donovan seems to be back in the fold with Klinsmann, they seem to have mended whatever their messed up relationship was before. I think really what that relationship it was broken, and Klinsmann took the upper hand and forced Landon to make the comeback himself. But anyway, if Donovan's back in the side now, he might take over that left wing, and then now Beasley is competing directly with Fabian Johnson for that spot, and that's a battle that as he gets older going to next year's World Cup, he might not win. So I think this was maybe his last hurrah.
Yeah, I would say Beasley's first start at left back I think was against Belgium, and he was just terrible. He was really, really bad. He looked really, really slow, really, really weak. He was out of position all the time, and he definitely got consistently better. As they moved through those handful of friendlies qualifiers and then eventually the Gold Cup. But as he became more effective, he always seemed, somewhat uncomfortable. He doesn't look like he's in the best sort of athletic shape of anyone out there. And so I think it's a positive, showing up the left side, Johnson, Donovan, and then, Beasley, thanks but no thanks for next summer.
So that's a good point. Thinking about Fabian. I mean, you look at our left back. Left back has been a problem position for the U.S. for God knows how long. But I mean, none of those guys are natural left backs. I guess Fabian Johnson and Castillo technically are, but they're really more in the wing back type mold. They're more likely to push the ball or just make runs up the sideline and leave space at the back. So
sure, yeah, but I think that's what Klinsmann wants. That's what the sort of team he's trying to set up is going for. Players who play at fullback doing that. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see him put out guys who are just going to be sitting back there on their heels, just booting people. He wants guys who are sweeping up.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Parkhurst. That's one player who I think would have been better suited for that standing back there kind of role, because his offense throughout the Gold Cup, it had its moments where I thought, all right, maybe he gets it. He threw in a couple nice crosses that led to goals, but overall, it scared me every time he was up with the ball in an advanced position on the right side.
He's much better suited to playing center back. I really think he should be given a chance there, because his defending has always been solid. He's not athletic enough to play right back, and he's not used to playing any sort of offense at all. You could just tell by the lack of ideas. And against Panama in the final, he had all the space in the world in the first half, and he would never make that overlapping run to try and create something. He finally did it in the second half, and we got a goal out of it. But he can't be the long-term answer at right back.
I think, over the last, in the 2006 cycle, or 2010 cycle, there were so many more options. Like Cherundolo, he could still make a comeback. Jonathan Spector's been mostly moved to a midfield role with Birmingham, but I don't know why he never got many chances. Eric Lehigh now with Nottingham Forest. There's a lot of guys that could step in and give you a little bit of both.
Timmy Chandler, yep, always forget about him.
It's worth forgetting about.
I'll forget that now he's actually cap-tied, so he can't do his waffling that he is so happy to do for much of his time.
He could pull a Kevin Brent's Boateng and retire from the national team at age 25.
1990 is he was born. Wow.
You guys feel old now?
Yep.
Happens every day.
14 months older than him, yeah.
The newest reason I now feel super old is there's apparently some young kid at Arsenal who he's tri-national, Ethiopian, German, and he lived in the United States for a number of years and applied for a United States passport. Who's 16 years old and might get a run with the Arsenal first team. So now I was reading an article about him today and about maybe U.S. trying to maybe get him, and I'm like, 16. He was born in 1997.
Pretty crazy.
It started with Freddie Adu making me feel old, and look where we are now.
Freddie Adu was older than us, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think that's the first moment. He's right about our age. The first moment that I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to be a professional athlete.
Yeah, so Freddie Adu was born June the 2nd, 1989. So he's 3 days younger than I am.
Oh, he's a number of months younger than me.
Yeah. But then again, who really knows?
Yeah.
That's true. He could have been born in 86 and we would never know about it.
Good.
But anyway.
And Danny Almonte.
Danny Almonte, that's a name I haven't heard in far too long.
I regularly watch video reruns of old Little League World Series, so fresh in my mind.
Are you allowed within 400 yards of the school zone?
Depends on if it's public or private.
Well, anyway, speaking about, we were talking about some of those young players. Does anyone think that some of those guys, the Joe Coronas, the Mixes, as we already talked a little bit about Mix, but Alejandro is not as young, Bedoya, but any of those more younger developmental players, do you think they'll even play a role in this cycle, or do you see them playing a much major role after the World Cup?
No, gotta be after. Forbidding traumatic injuries and unforeseen circumstances between now and next June, it would have to be the next cycle, I think.
Yeah.
I thought Corona had a shot, but
You really
There's too many people in front of them once you consider everyone who's out there, coming back into their rightful place in the squad. I just don't see it for them.
Speaking of another young player who you might not think of as that young, because he's been around for a while, Breck Shea. Earlier today it just came out that he injured his knee in a friendly against the Philadelphia Union. And to continue the Breck Shea enigma, in that game, before his injury, he actually came on for Stoke. He started the game for Stoke. Granted, it was against the Philadelphia Union's B side, mostly youth and reserve players. And he came out and he scored a goal and assisted on another. So it looked like he was maybe making a run to play in Stoke, but now he's got a recovery period. It's a new coach in there. He's a player, like, what are you guys' thoughts on his performance throughout this Gold Cup? Because as Fogarty even put in the 3 up, 3 down, you can't even really quantify it. It deserves its own category.
Yeah, no, I'd say worryingly inconsistent. To a point where you're that, you have your high spots, you have your highlights, but if you're going to have stinkers the way he did, it's really worrying, and it makes you think he almost shouldn't even be there on the team. He just gives you a heart attack every time he comes on.
Yeah, his performance against Cuba, I believe it was against Cuba, was maybe the worst 45 minutes, or no, he picked it up in the last 10 minutes or so, but the worst 35 minutes easily of any U.S. player I've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think Breck Shea's goal in the final is a goal that really, I don't know if you can even really attribute that to him. There was a pass or a shot or whatever, the ball was just going in the direction of the net, and Breck Shea was there to just tap it in. So, but was there a man of the match named for that final?
By who? By us or by?
I'm not sure, just in general, because I saw there was some poll said Breck Shea, and it was just like, well, I guess if there's a game in which there aren't any shots and someone is given a goal, I guess that guy's the man of the match.
Well, we can talk about how awful the final was.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Popko picked Kyle Beckerman, I guess because of the defense he put at the end of the game. I picked Mix Discaroo just because he seemed to be the only American player with a pulse throughout the game. So it was hard to choose. I almost picked Nick Raimondo just for having to stand on the field and watch it.
I've seen a number of places pick Mix Discaroo, and I think he was kind of the closest you're going to get to consensus in a match where everyone was mediocre. But
yeah, it really was not the match that Fox was looking for to draw in an American audience. Gus Johnson didn't really have anything to scream about, as Gus Johnson does. That's the reason why he's there. Even on the Breck Shea goal, I don't think he screamed. I don't think we got the Gus Johnson treatment. So it was a tough one to watch.
Yeah, there's only so much you can really scream about a 6-inch tap-in.
Right. Yeah, Gus Johnson relies on some build-up. He's all in the slow build to like a shouty, screamy sentence, and that goal didn't really suit that.
No.
My biggest problem with the goal is that the most exciting part of the game was wondering whether Breck Shea was onside or not.
Here we go. I don't think he was.
No, he was, because he was onside when Bedoya played the ball into the box. Donovan never touched it.
Donovan never touched it.
No, Donovan missed it. They credited Donovan with the assist, which is a load of crap.
I think they changed it. I think they later changed it, the official stat.
It was going in anyway, which is, the main thing. So Bedoya would have had. I don't even know what the hell we can call it. I don't even want to talk about the final anymore. That game was one of the worst games I've ever watched.
Frankly, my feeling is that, because it was Breck Shea that tapped it in, we can talk about how, the enigma that is Breck Shea and how depressing a goal that was. I personally think a game-winning goal that was a really, a good cross that was whiffed on might be a worse winning goal. Might have ended up being a worse winning goal than the Breck Shea one.
I don't know.
But who am I to say?
The one thing I'll take away from the final is that, and I hate to bring the mood down, is that Stuart Holden tore his ACL. I don't think anything else matters about that final. I didn't even see the celebration of the trophy. I know Holden was on Gonzalez's back, which was nice.
Yeah, and
Omar's big contribution.
And Gucci Onyewu lorded over the trophy like he actually contributed to its winning.
I think everyone else is probably just afraid of him, so they don't have it.
He's a large man.
I think Gucci Onyewu was relishing in the fact that it would be the last time he could watch the team play without having to buy a ticket.
What is Gucci Onyewu's career going from here? He's still a Sporting Lisbon player, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a good league. So,
but he was loaned out last year and got some games with Malaga, or Malaga. I don't know how you want to pronounce it.
Malaga.
Yeah.
He's so slow.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He can't run anymore.
I'd like to point out that I just Googled Gucci Onyewu, and one of the first pictures that came up was his presence in the body issue of ESPN magazine, and there are some things I can't unsee now.
All right, he's retiring, just for that. Just give up. I'm afraid now to search a Gucci Onyewu on Google.
And he only played 2 league games for Malaga.
He's one that he'll be in MLS, I think, by this time next year.
I don't think that'd be a bad move for him. I think he can actually. I think in the style of the MLS plays a little more direct. A lot of teams. I think he'll have a role just being a huge presence. What's going on?
Shades are here, yeah.
But
Fogarty, one other thing that you missed by missing the trophy celebration was the actual Gold Cup itself, which is the most modern and unusual looking trophy that I think I've ever seen.
Oh, I saw the cup before the tournament. I didn't get to see them lift it up though. It's no Stanley Cup. I know that much.
It's hardly even a general cup. I might prefer lifting a nice beer mug to lifting that.
It looks like they took the old UEFA Cup and they just sort of put handles on it. You know?
And not really handles as much as really pointy triangles.
Exactly, yeah.
It looks brand new, like it just came, like it was just molded.
Yeah.
It looked like someone pulled that at the bottom of a very, very large box of cereal.
You could eat cereal out of it, too, I'm sure.
You could, but hey, that's our Continental Championship, so don't knock it, right?
I don't know, it's better than the European Cup, or not the European Cup, the cup awarded to the winners of the European Championship. It looks sort of like an old Greek vase. I really don't like that trophy.
Oh, yeah.
You ever seen it?
I think, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, but it's not a good one. There's no real graceful way to lift it at a ceremony where they're presenting to you. You have to sort of lift it up sideways, like hold the bottom of it and then hold the top, and then sort of, pump it up in the air a few times while the confetti falls over you. So that's not a good one.
Apparently there's a gun called the Colt Gold Cup Trophy, by the way. I was looking it up on Google.
Wait.
The best trophy by far has got to be the Champions League trophy. That's a fantastic trophy.
It is nice. It is pretty.
Yeah, that's great. It's huge, and it's perfect for, grabbing on each side, pumping up in there a few times for the pictures. The World Cup looks good, though, but you can't look at that. It looks nice with all the hands on the ball. The World Cup,
it's great for holding with both hands and pumping up a few times in the air. Comments I will live in infamy to mark Paul Deedy's first presence on the podcast.
Yeah, I think I have to go home and just sit in the dark room and feel bad about myself after that one.
I'll bring you some wood chippers.
Okay, a pair of them, please. Yeah. Yep. All right, so we'll say goodbye for now, guys.
All right, till next time. Thanks, Paul, for coming out.
You got it.
All right, and then there were 3.
What a note to leave on.
A note to leave on a thinly veiled innuendo. But then again, what other note would he leave on?
It's a fair point.
It is a fair point. Now, does anyone have any other particular thoughts on this Gold Cup performance? Any particular players that stood out to you?
I feel like we can't talk about the Gold Cup without talking about the rise and fall of Wando.
Oh, definitely.
Who, against the amateurs from Belize and Cuba, was an all-world striker who I gave the nickname Lewin Wondolowski, but, that was a terrible nickname. I'm sorry. But he came back down to earth really fast against Costa Rica and Honduras, 2 teams that had defenders with professional experience and who had played in World Cup qualifiers. And I really want to know where Wondolowski stands right now, whether he took Herculez Gomez's spot. So I'm just throwing that one out there.
It's tough because I think he in those 2 games against a little stiffer competition and against Costa Rica and El Salvador, he definitely looked better the second time out against El Salvador.
Yeah, I don't think he's athletic enough to play at this level though. He's made a living as a goal poacher in MLS. Like the Breck Shea goal would have been a perfect. The Breck Shea goal against Panama would have been a perfect Chris Wondolowski goal. But I don't think he has the ability to create at all, whereas guys like Altidore and Herculez Gomez, even at times, can create something out of nothing, whereas Wando's just there hoping for perfect service, or nothing's getting done.
Yeah, you can tell he's a good positional striker. It is a skill finding yourself in the right place at the right time. It's not just pure luck. But yeah, with this team, he relies too much on damn pure luck, and I don't think he's a great fit. Like he might get a place. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He does have a talent. It's just I'm not sure he's the right player for this style so much when you get going.
Well, I wonder if he's going to have another shot. Which if we clinch qualification, there's still World Cup qualifiers to play. Does Klinsmann throw him out there just to give him another look? And I know they're trying to set up some friendlies in Europe other than the Bosnia game. I'm assuming he's going to make the trip. I don't know if that's a fair assumption to make, but I think he'll be there.
To Bosnia?
Not to Bosnia.
Oh.
Bosnia, I don't think he'll be there, but I think he'll get another shot.
Yeah.
In one of these friendlies.
I agree. I think in those November friendlies, it's going to be. I feel like that's going to be a very strange team you're going to see in those November games.
Yeah, because I don't know if any of the English guys are going to make it. Because doesn't the season? We talked about this last time. Doesn't the season start a couple days afterwards?
For the Bosnia game?
Yeah. When's the Bosnia game? It's the
14th.
When does the Premier League start?
17th, I think.
So yeah, 3 days afterwards. Is that enough time? Because just watching Newcastle go through the Europa League playing on a Wednesday and then having to come back on a Saturday. I mean, there were just dead legs everywhere, and I don't know if the Premier League clubs are going to want their guys.
I think it might. You'll have to double check this, but I think it might be an official fixture date, which means if we call them in, they have no choice but to release them.
Oh, well, then that changes everything. Then you could see more of a Dempsey out the door. Cameron would be there. Other than, some starting 11 players and then maybe like a ragtag group fitting in.
Well, I mean, I know John Anthony Brooks accepted a call-up to that game. I feel like now that Aaron Johansson accepted or is attempting to change his affiliation from Iceland to the United States, I think it's going to be more likely to see guys like that. That's my feeling about it, but I'm not 100%. Let's see. Oh no, it is not. I do not believe it's an official date.
Well, it's going to be interesting because guys like Brooks and Johansson, who are talented, you want to see how they work with the rest of the guys. Like, you want to see Brooks next to Beasler out there against Bosnia.
Mm-hmm.
I think Beasler is the second coming of Jay Demerit in the way he plays, and that can be taken either as a good thing or a bad thing. I'm looking at it more as a good thing.
Yep.
Where it's a guy who really comes out of nowhere, and he's been good. He's always a little shaky his first time out, but as the games progress, he gets better and better as he finds his rhythm.
I agree. I think we kind of saw that he's the kind of guy that would benefit from being in a camp for a long time before he gets going. I think when you get the World Cup and that team was together for a couple of weeks beforehand, I think that'll really help him. He came in, he had to hit the ground running, and he was a little slow to pick up the pace. But once he finally got it in the second and third game, he was much, much better.
He was outperforming Omar Gonzalez in the last two qualifiers by far.
Mm. Another guy from those late editions I want to talk about a little bit for the Gold Cup late editions, Eddie Johnson. I think he's a guy that definitely solidified his place. His physicality, his speed is it obviously overpowered a lot of the CONCACAF guys, but I think he can definitely play a role going forward against tougher competition.
And you can play him anywhere. You can play him on both wings. You can play him at striker. So if one person's having an off game, Eddie Johnson between the 50 and 60th minute, and he's going to be running, and he's another one who kind of like revitalized his career, and it's nice to see him playing big minutes.
It is. Gibbons, do you have any thoughts on Eddie Johnson's performance in the last couple games?
Well, I have to say I loved when he came on the field and immediately scored against El Salvador. I think he was on the pitch for about 14 seconds before scoring a goal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he seems like a guy that I think could be, as Fogarty said, a sub for the U.S.'s A team, and can kind of fill in anywhere he needs to be as a striker.
Yeah, I think he. I mean, with that first goal, my thought was you always hear the logic is always never make subs on corner kicks, whether it's defense or offense. You don't want to change anything up right there. But Klinsmann says, screw that. I'm sending Eddie Johnson and his blonde ass hair, and he goes up and just immediately towers over everyone and heads it in. That Klinsmann, the Klinsmann magic on the substitutes was we talked about a little bit before, but I think that was just something that. I think he's also finding his rhythm with this program. Obviously, it's not the same team, but just he's finding the rhythm of how he wants this team to play now. I think that's a major, major step forward. That is personally one of my big things to gain from this Gold Cup.
I think he managed the Gold Cup perfectly. He spent the group stage trying different combinations of players to see who was working well with each other for future reference. And he's really, he struggled a bit. And once the Sporting News article came out, like everybody thought this was going to be Klinsmann's downfall. He's taken it, and this is now his team. He's made himself the face of the team. He's gotten the player. Everybody has bought in. Even Donovan, who was, a little hesitant at first or whatever happened, but he's gotten it figured out. And I know, they weren't playing the best competition, but it's refreshing to see everybody buying into the Klinsmann style.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just kind of see that he now knows. He knows that he wants to play that 4-2-3-1, or I guess at times it was more like a 4-1-4-1, or even a 4-1. I can't do the math right now, but pushing the wingers up higher. So I think you see him starting to get a grip on where his personnel fits in. He knows that with this team, he could rely on Kyle Beckerman as the primary holding midfielder and let Discaroon or Holden loose a little bit. And that's kind of something I feel like we might see a little more of with the full team, when you might see Bradley getting a little more adventurous than he has been in the past. Because even though he kind of thrives in that full box-to-box role, I think he presents an option attacking that you can't. It could be an impressive option for the United States.
Yeah, I like it. The only problem is that there are times when Jermaine Jones thinks he's shabby, so we got to rein him in a bit.
It's okay. There are times when Clarence Goodson during the Gold Cup thought he was shabby.
Clarence Goodson's another person you have to discuss.
Yep.
He's another guy who's not the best athlete out there, but he had a good tournament. He still, every time he touches the ball, my blood pressure goes through the roof, and I'm terrified, and I have goosebumps on my skin. I start sweating, but he had a great tournament for where he was a month earlier.
I agree. He was. I throughout the tournament, I kept wanting to hate what he was doing, but he was so solid in the back, and every now and then those long balls up. I think the one thing you have to look at with Clarence Goodson's performance is that those long balls up against the teams in CONCACAF, yeah, it might turn the ball over, but we're still going to control. The U.S. is still going to control possession. There's no doubt about it. When you're going against a team that you're not going to control possession like that, turning the ball over with that simply is something you can't really rely on. Granted, it did spring Landon Donovan a couple times for assists and goals. It led to some chances, but I'm not sure that it's a sustainable tactic when you go into tougher games in the World Cup or qualifying against Mexico and full strength Costa Rica, or in warm up or in friendly type games.
The problem is that even though he was doing it and it had some success, it's not the type of soccer that you want to see ever, unless you're playing against a team of midgets. Because you have Beasley on the left, who's a proven ball handler. You have two wings in Bedoya and Corona/Torres. You have Diskerud and Holden, who can play. You have Beckerman, who will make the right pass. And Mix Diskerud is kicking off from the 35-yard line every time and basically just giving up possession. And the U.S. needed to break these teams down. It was very hard to break down Costa Rica and Panama because they had the talent on defense where that brick wall strategy could work.
Oh.
And they could have easily taken the game to extra time. Not Costa Rica because it was a group stage game. But Panama, they're 60 minutes into the game, I was really nervous that we were going to be going into an extra 30 minutes.
Oh, Panama's defense played. I mean, you can't discount how well they played. They were out physicaling. That's not a word, but they were playing with a lot more physicality than the United States for much of that game.
Yeah, Eddie Johnson was trying really hard, and he couldn't get anything going. They had him blanketed. Landon was super frustrated in that first half. It was really good defending. I mean, we give CONCACAF a lot of crap because there's no depth at all in the region, but that was a really good performance. A lot of teams would have struggled against that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see Mexico. Mexico lost to Panama twice. It was a tough team. It was a tough team. I mean, there's a reason that they still have a chance to qualify out of the hex. But hey, we'll see what happens with that.
It seemed like Panama really was content to defend and put all their guys in defensive mode, and they had only 20-something% possession in that game. They didn't have any shots. So while it was a great defensive performance, and it really was, it was really because of the style they were content to play.
Yeah, I think you look at that really shows partly. I agree that the difference between the gap between CONCACAF competition and competition with some of the better teams in the world, because you look at it and you see they're willing to play that brick wall type game, but then they get the ball out and they can't counter effectively. Was it Quintero on the left hand side had a couple nice moves. Parkhurst is usually on hand to snuff it out. Mix came back and helped out in that situation. Bedoya came back and even did a little work. When you look at the United States under Bob Bradley more so, when we had to play that kind of bunker in and then hope to spring out on the counterattack. We were able to do it with a lot more efficiency. Our attacks actually looked dangerous. Even though we were playing with less possession, we had the talent to kind of strike out and get those goals when we needed them. When you look at Panama, they just don't have that. They have Blas Perez was pretty much invisible in the entire final.
Yeah, and Blas Perez he's a good player, and which is why I thought Panama might have tried to, spring some possession to try and free him up. Blas Perez is not a slouched striker. He's more than capable of scoring a goal. He's done it maybe 20 or 30 times for his country, but yeah, there was no real threat of Panama after the first 10 minutes of scoring a goal until Brett Shea tapped his in, and it was really just the U.S. just kicking it around trying to find something.
Yeah.
And this is where the Parkhurst thing really bothered me, and the problem with right back is there was nobody was making that run, and the left-hand side with Corona and Beasley was just ignored altogether. And Bedoya was sitting there with the ball, and he had nothing to do with it, so he would try to make something happen, and it would always fail. Parkhurst was not helping him at all, which is we need to get a right back or even a left back who can make that overlapping run just to free up some kind of space, or otherwise we're just going to be sitting there passing it back and forth across the midfield while the fans fall asleep.
Fabian Johnson on a good day can do that. That's where I think he'll be able to overtake Beasley by the time of the World Cup. If
Fabian Johnson on a bad day can do it too. He's active going forward.
Yeah.
Edgar Castillo can do it, although
but
Edgar Castillo can't defend anybody.
Utter shite in defending.
Yeah, I don't get how he's been a professional for so long, and I was on transfer market, and he plays most of his games at left back, but he can't cover anybody.
Yeah.
It's that was eye-opening in a bad way.
I've read some things that say he is significantly better in his games for Tijuana than he has shown in the U.S. games.
Some kind of zone defense, because he can't guard one. He can't. It sounds like basketball. He can't cover one-on-one.
Yeah. But I think he's one of those, as you mentioned, he's one of those guys who hurt himself in this tournament. Do you guys have any other opinions on players, on individual players in this tournament?
Not for me. No, I think that hit about everybody.
Just Michael Orozco Fiscal. Really, he didn't do anything, which was disappointing. I want to see what Michael Orozco can do.
Yeah, it was a strange, his performance. He was never bad.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad. But when you're a player that's in his position, where he's probably right at the edge of the top 5 in terms of center backs, and they're not going to bring 5 center backs to the World Cup, he needed to do something to, boost his stature, and he seemed content to let Goodson, and I think he was paired with Onyewu once, really dictate that back line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was really, he hurt himself, but he didn't necessarily play badly, but he needed to play great.
Yep.
He needed to be getting 8s and 9s on the grades.
Yeah. Now, as you mentioned, he's that guy, that fifth or sixth center back in the possible World Cup pecking order. Should we move to our 23 for 2014?
I think now's a great time.
Now's a great time. Gibbons, are you in for this?
I will stick around to hear what you guys have to say, but not prepared to field the squad.
All right. Well, Fogarty, do you want to read off our roll call from last time out? It's been a while.
All right. The last time, I believe, was right after the 4th of July we did this podcast?
Sometime around then, I believe.
Sometime around then. So the 3 goalkeepers, Howard...
It was July 2nd, right before. Sorry.
Yeah. Howard, Guzan, Raimondo are 3 keepers. Defenders, Omar Gonzalez, Jeff Cameron, Matt Beasler, Timmy Chandler, Edgar Castillo, Clarence Goodson, DeMarcus Beasley, and Brad Evans. Midfielders, Michael Bradley, Jermaine Jones, Graham Zusi, Maurice Aidoo, Brad Davis, Landon Donovan, Fabian Johnson, and our forward/wingers, Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore, Eddie Johnson, Hercules Gomez, and Terrence Boyd.
So, what, in your mind, are the first? I mean, let's start off with this right away. Nick Romando did nothing in this tournament to dissuade us from giving him a free trip to Brazil. Have fun, go to the beach, hit up some strip clubs or something, Nick. Go have a good time. I mean, you look like you belong at a strip club with them arm sleeves. So,
I just put the goalies in bold. I have the ones that I have considered locks.
Yeah.
In bold. Nick Romando finally got a bold next to Tim Howard and Brad Guzan.
Yeah, I mean, it would take. I think it would actually take an injury. We're not in the business of that macabre prediction business. So it would take an injury to change that depth chart at this point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean and Bill. We'll see you in 2020, probably.
Yep.
Or 2018 was it?
Yeah, 2018. Unless Howard wants to keep going,
In which case,
Ben makes Brad Guzan like the most tragic figure in U.S. history, a great goalkeeper who will never ever see the field.
we're in the business of hyperbole here at American Soccer Junkies. The most tragic figure in United States history.
Well, who else
Brad
would it be?
Guzan.
Andres Escobar didn't play for the U.S., so
I don't know. I'm more talking the broad non-soccer generalization.
all right, fine. All right. The first change that we can make, and it might take a while to figure out his replacement, Brad Davis is off this team.
I agree.
I mean, that's about as easy as it gets for me.
So,
All right, so he's gone. So
let's go through the locks. In defense,
I have one lock in defense right now.
Beasler?
No, Jeff Cameron.
Okay.
He'll be on the squad in some capacity, whether it's as the third midfielder or as a starting defender. Matt Beasler can still lose his spot, I think.
You can still lose his spot to Brazil. I don't mean in the starting lineup, but his spot to Brazil.
I think so, yes.
Okay. We'll leave that up for discussion. In the midfield, what locks do you have? I have, at this point, depending on how you classify Dempsey and Donovan, I think Bradley, Jones, and Zusi are definitely going to Brazil.
Yeah, I agree. I have Fabian Johnson as a lock, too.
Well, here's a question. At this point, with the way this team is trending, do we have to consider him a defender?
I don't know, honestly. If you consider him a defender, then Brad Evans needs to get off the team.
I don't hate that, really.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take Brad Evans out, and I'm going to move Fabian Johnson over. So now we have two locks in defense, Cameron and Johnson.
Yep.
I really think Johnson's going to outplay Beasley, and Beasley's going to have to figure out if he can maybe man the fight, if he can compete with Eddie Johnson for that energy role, if he even makes the roster. So, yeah, I agree that Bradley, Jones, and Zusi are locks, and I'm going to put Donovan down as a lock.
Do we want to classify him as midfield or forward? Wherever he is the same spot as Dempsey. I think it's more likely to put Donovan in the midfield.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
All
right. So I have Donovan as a lock. So now we have 5 midfielders left on the team. 4 in bold as locks: Bradley, Jones, Zusi, and Donovan. Maurice Edu is sitting there, and he is in real trouble.
Yeah, I think because you look at it, one thing, he hasn't been playing that much for his club teams. He's been moving around. I mean, he played a little bit in Turkey. But he's vulnerable. Like he used to have a starting role, and his versatility was nice. But there's so many players fighting for that type of position, that holding midfielder role. That I think if Stuart Holden didn't injure his knee, I think we would be putting him in over Edu right now.
Yeah, the thing with Edu though is he can play center back.
Yeah, he's not very good at it though.
But he's serviceable. But I don't know if we can take him off right now. For the forward wingers, by the way, I have Dempsey, Altidore, and Johnson all in bold.
Yeah, I mean they're not going anywhere.
So where do you want to start with this? You want to keep working in? All right, this is the revised team with the goalies. I'm not even going to bother. Cameron and Johnson are locked. Gonzalez, Beasler, Chandler, Castillo, Goodson, and Beasley are these 6 other defenders we have listed. None in bold. And 1, possibly 2, I think, coming off this thing. We have 5 midfielders. 4 locks and Maurice Edu, and the 5 strikers with Dempsey, Altidore, and Johnson. So where do you want to go?
Let's start with the defenders, because that's a very tricky area to pinpoint. Because I feel like there's a lot of guys that we think will probably be on this team, and we can't really take them off. But we have to discuss that their position is up for grabs at the moment.
Well, I think if John Anthony Brooks is cap-tied, I think he's got to be on this squad, right?
I agree, but I'm not like he's not necessarily going to be cap-tied because he's played for both us and Germany, so he doesn't have to make a one-time switch right now, I believe.
But
and he's going to play in Bosnia, which isn't a cap-tied situation. It's going to be, if we can call him it. I would like to put him on this team, but I'm a little hesitant to call him in because
I'm in the same boat as you right now.
The U.S. has a propensity to calling in young players and getting them in a game. We did it with Adu when he was younger. We did it with another promising young center back who never panned out, Boss.
Yeah.
It really, I think this is a big year for his development because now he's up in the Bundesliga. So I think I want to see. Come September, I might be willing to give him a spot. I don't know if I can do it right now.
Yeah, neither do I. For center backs, so we have Beasler, and then
I think Beasler. He might not be starting, but I think he is the most likely of any of them, the most guaranteed of any of them to make this team.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put him in bold just yet. I'm just a little.
Okay, but should we put him on for this rendition of the roster?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Gonzalez and Goodson. Whatever you make of Cameron, who will be on this team, I don't know. Can Gonzalez and Goodson both be on the World Cup team at the same time?
It's a tough question. I think it depends on where you think of Jeff Cameron. If you think of him as being able to kind of deputize at right back, defensive midfield, and center back, do you give him that much free range, that much versatility, where he can kind of just plug and play?
I think we need to find a way to get him as a starter.
Jeff Cameron?
He's too good, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on where he plays this season with Stoke. If he plays another season where he pretty much exclusively plays right back, if he moves over, then he might be coming off the bench, unfortunately. Because I don't think he provides... He's not very good going forward. He provides another aerial option, which allows Beasler to... Even though Beasler was great in the air at the Gold Cup, that allows Beasler to kind of go back and play more with his feet.
Yeah. All right, so... I'm looking at Edgar Castillo's name, and I feel like we have to take it off.
I don't want him there. Sorry, Ed. You're Ed now. Deal with it.
So we have now 7 defenders.
And Evans is off already, right?
Yeah, I took him off. It's Gonzalez, Cameron, Beasler, Chandler, Goodson, Beasley, Johnson. I think for now all those spots might be safe.
Yeah. What about Chandler? Isn't Chandler on there? Chandler
is on there. Chandler is such a good player, though, for Nuremberg.
Yeah, I don't want to... If Cherundolo gets called in any point in the next couple months, I'll be quick to replace Chandler. I'm not sure.
Have Chandler and Cherundolo coexist?
I believe so. I think you could, but I think if you're looking at Jeff Cameron's that ability to play right back, I don't think you want 3 guys who can play right back on one roster. It just seems like overkill.
So we need a spot, but we can't give it to Cherundolo right now.
No, so I say we're safe to keep Chandler in there.
All right, so now we still have 7. Does Michael Parkhurst get a spot? Because he was called in for the May camp and rode the pine in the friendlies and in the 3 WCQs. Does he get a spot based on his performance in the Gold Cup?
I liked his performance in the Gold Cup. I think he might, by default, get a spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's not in a position where, with the roster with the 23 for 2014, where he's ever going to play, but he would wear like that 21 shirt.
Yeah.
Goodson gets another number, obviously, but he seems like the type of guy that you want on the fringe of the roster, where if you have to use him,
you're not going to be panicky about it. He plays in the Bundesliga. I mean, I think he needs to get some playing time this year. Whether it's at Augsburg or he has to move somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's another one where the move to MLS, where if he plays on like a good MLS team and gets in the playoff race where he could help himself out, because sitting on the bench, no matter where it is not going to do you any good.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to do that though I don't think he's going to move until January.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough. You might have to move to a lesser league in Europe and get the end of that season in.
Gonzalez, Cameron, Beasler, Chandler, Parkhurst, Goodson, Beasley, Fabian Johnson is 8 defenders. Are you satisfied with that?
I think yeah. So we're sticking with Gonzalez and Goodson both in this roster right now.
I think you have to, based on who realistically could come in right now and take either of those center back spots. You don't want to put Brooks in because he's not going to be playing a cap-tied game anytime soon, as far as we know. And I agree with you on that decision, not to put him in now.
Yep.
So I think by default we have to. I just put Beasler in bold, just thinking about this center back mess.
Yeah.
I think he has to be in bold now.
Yeah. So, do you want to run through those guys one more time?
All right, Gonzalez, Cameron in bold, Beasler in bold, Chandler, Parkhurst, Goodson, Beasley, Fabian Johnson in goal. In bold.
Yeah.
Sorry. So that's the 8 defenders to go along with the 3 goalies. So now for midfield, we have Bradley and Jones, the 2 holding mids, in bold.
And Zusi
in bold and Donovan in bold as 2 wingers, presumably starting.
Yeah.
And Maurice Edu right now in not bold at all.
Definitely not. So I think between that midfield, depending on how you want to think about it, we either need to fill 3 or 4 more spots.
Yeah.
Who do you think might step in?
I think Mick Fiskerud needs a spot.
Think he deserves a spot on this team?
I think out of all the players, he's fairly hard to ignore.
I want to put him in too. I mean, America loves Mix right now.
The problem is, can he play on the wing?
I think that's where Joe Corona might make a team, or even Breck. It's hard to we can't put Breck Shea in right now. Let's just say that right, because he's injured. We don't know what his situation is at Stoke. We can't put him in the team right now. Do you agree?
Yes, 100%. Now we have 6 midfielders.
I think that Shea might be able to play his way onto this team, but I can't put him in good conscience. Can't put him on right now.
I agree. So I think right now it's Torres, Corona, Bedoya competing for 1 spot.
For one,
unless we remove a striker and add another. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. So we're putting Mix on this team?
Unless something comes up where we take him off.
Yeah, I like the ability to put Mix on this team. Are we going to keep Edu on this team? That's another big question.
The Edu, Beckerman, Danny Williams debate, I tweeted about this a couple weeks ago. I think it's a really interesting question. I think Danny Williams right now is taking a back seat. And I think it's Edu and Beckerman right now. And I feel like it's almost a coin flip which one we put in. I could see taking Edu out because Beckerman's the flavor of the month.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like I came to love Kyle Beckerman during this last Gold Cup month, but never thought I'd say that. But at the same time, Edu does provide more versatility. He's probably the better player.
He is the better player. I don't think that's a question.
Yeah.
I think it's though, can Maurice Edu get a stable club situation? He did play in Turkey last year. He was getting match action.
Yeah.
Is he going to be an afterthought, though, for Stoke? Or will he get loaned out again and find, match time?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see with that. It's an interesting situation.
Yeah.
That was something we won't know about that. We won't know even about that thought process probably until September.
So do you want to keep Edu on just because he's the better of the 2 players for now?
I don't know. I've been kind of hoping to get Edu out of there for a while.
Yeah, I know. You don't like him as much as I do.
No, I know that's the unfortunate truth.
I do like Edu. So if we have Mixon, though, out of the Torres, Corona, Bedoya trio, which one do you think is the most likely?
Torres. I'm not saying that he's the one I prefer, but I think he is definitely the most likely.
Out of the three of them, I probably like him the least, but I think his ability to hit a dead ball is incredible. Like, I never, like, he's so dangerous on free kicks, and he tried taking players on. He looked really confident in his ability.
Yeah, I think
nothing really came of it, but
I think he'll get another chance with the full team easily in September, October.
I think finally, after years of Bradley and Klinsmann trying to find out what to actually do with him, I think they found his role.
Yep. So should we put him on this team?
I'm going to put him on for now.
I agree.
I think the other thing that he has that the other guys don't, Andres Torres, former awful outfielder for the Medicine Giants. Jose Torres has started a World Cup game.
Yep, he has.
And he hit the post in that World Cup game.
He did.
Off a free kick. So I feel pretty confident putting Torres in there. I think Corona is the best player out of all three. Corona, I think, was supposed to be his Gold Cup, but he showed flashes of it. He couldn't put it all together for 90 minutes.
Yeah. Corona's ability, it's definitely. I think he needs to, because he needs to get more consistent time with T1. He does play a lot, but he needs to get starts pretty much every week. He needs to be a first guy on the team sheet kind of guy, and he needs to be able to come in and make an impact in a World Cup qualifier. And then I think Klinsmann might take a chance.
And Bedoya, who is really good the final two games, I think needs to figure out a way to get out of Sweden.
He apparently went to, I saw something today, he went to his training ground with Helsingborg and said his goodbyes. He was just going back to pack up and say goodbye and take one training session. So he's apparently on the move. I'm assuming
20, maybe?
I'm assuming it's 20, but we'll report more when we find out more.
If that move goes through, that puts Bedoya
I think
right back into it.
The Dutch league the Eredivisie is huge. It's been very good for U.S. players.
And it fits his attacking mentality perfectly.
Yep. So, but right now it's Torres, and damn you, Fogarty, I'll give it to Maurice Edu.
Wait, I have no problem putting Beckerman on the team.
I think we've flirted with the prospect of Kyle Beckerman on this team a number of times.
And I'm on the record as saying that Kyle Beckerman has been at one point my least favorite athlete in the history of this team.
But
he was so damn good in the Gold Cup.
Hey, let's make some waves, Fogarty. Let's put him on this team for good.
Somehow, unlike Maurice Edu, Kyle Beckerman's name does not have the red squiggly line come up on Microsoft Word. He might be staying for a while. All right, so now we have 18 that we've gone through. So now the three goalies, Howard Guzan and Nick Raimondo, whose Instagram next June will be pretty interesting. Defenders, Gonzalez, Cameron, Beasler, Chandler, Parkhurst, Goodson, Beasley, Cameron, Beasler, Johnson in bold. Midfielders, Bradley, Jones, Zusi, Beckerman, Donovan, Discarud, Torres, Bradley, Jones, Zusi, Donovan in bold. Now we're up to the forwards. Dempsey out the door and Eddie Johnson.
So we have two spots to fill.
Gomez and Boyd.
I think Gomez is off this team. I really do.
I think Gomez is probably the one player where, as we keep doing more podcasts and we keep doing this segment, we'll be in and out of the squad almost on a rotating basis based on what the other American options are.
Yeah.
So I take him off for now because Wondolowski outplayed him.
Yeah.
I'm not putting Wondolowski on this team though.
No. I think Terrence Boyd still comes in and plays.
Now, I think Boyd's in too. Now, we can go in a couple different directions. We could put another midfielder on. We could put another forward player on. We could put another defender and move one of the other defenders into the midfield.
I think Eddie Johnson, Dempsey's nebulous situation, and I think Johnson's ability to play on the wings, I think, makes it a position for a forward. And honestly, do you know who I think might take this place right now, today, my opinion of who will take this place?
I have an idea. Let me hear it. I'll let you know.
Aaron Johansson.
That's who I expected. There were two names that I had swirling in my head. The infamous Bobby Wood.
Bobby Wood. I haven't seen enough of Bobby Wood, but I I haven't seen anything from Aaron Johansson, but I know he played. He went to AZ. He's only played 5 games for AZ. He came late in the year, and he was deputizing Josie. But I think he'll take that. I think he'll take that place, and I think that's his spot.
Well, my issue with putting him on the team is this messy divorce with the Iceland Federation.
Yeah.
He's on pace to become the most hated man in Iceland since Wolf the Dentist Stanson couldn't get the job done in D2 the Mighty Ducks. So, I want to put him on. I don't know if I can. The other name that I'm considering putting on this team because he just won't die is Sasha Kleshkin.
Okay.
Not as a striker, but you could move Donovan up into the forward category and put Kleshkin in as a midfielder.
All right. I think we need to make a final decision on this. So, are we between Kleshkin and Johansson for the final spot?
Yeah, at the moment.
Gibbons, are you still here?
I am.
Break the tie. Who do you want?
You do it 2 one more time?
Sasha Kleshkin and Aaron Johansson. Both names are a bitch to spell, by the way. So, don't put that into your...
Kleshkin we know. Johansson is a great unknown.
Yeah, give me Kleshkin then.
All right.
We've got a better idea of what he can do, and he's not going to be a major impact player, in my opinion.
True. So it looks like Sasha rounds out our 23 for 2014, Fogarty.
I'm not going to lie, I was hoping he'd say Johansson. I threw Sasha. I don't like Sasha. I threw him out. Like that's not a lie. He's fine. But he's a great player for his club, Anderlecht, who gets into the Champions League almost every year. But he's not good for the U.S.
But maybe we'll see what he can bring September, October.
All right, I'm moving Donovan into the forwards then.
Okay, that works for me.
All right, and I agree with you that Johansson will be on here eventually.
Oh, he'll definitely make an appearance at some point in our rankings. But
it'll be interesting if he plays big minutes in Bosnia.
Yeah, you know what we're really looking forward to our first 23 for 2018. It's gonna be a weird one.
It's gonna be based just on pure speculation.
Oh.
That's gonna be one where it's just who do we want to see.
Exactly.
Which means Josh Gad will be on the team.
Oh yeah.
His injury, I just want to say, was a big blow because I think he had a real chance to make a huge impact on the Gold Cup.
Yeah, he would have been a great player to have there.
He's another one who might need to make a move, but now he just has to worry about getting healthy.
Yep.
So here's the team.
The final team.
Howard, Guzan, Raimondo, all set in stone. Gonzalez, Cameron Bold, Beasler Bold, Chandler, Parker, Goodson, Beasley, Fabian Johnson Bold. Midfielders, Bradley Jones, Zusi, all in bold. Beckerman, Kleshkin, Diskerud, and Torres. And then for the forwards, 4 in bold, Dempsey, Altidore, Eddie, and Landon Donovan with Terrence Boyd as the 5th striker.
That right there is our U.S. national team, men's national team, 23 for 2014. I think this is a good time as any to wrap up our podcast for the evening.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure welcoming Matt Gibbons, who's bravely stood here with us listening to Fogarty and I rant for 20 minutes about Sasha Kleshkin's merits as a player.
Well, I mean, you guys really are the predominant experts on the USMNT, as much as I know some of you may hate the acronym, but happy to be here.
Yeah, we also should thank Paul Deedy for bringing in his unique humor into the first half of the podcast.
Yep. So always a great time to welcome Paul Deedy. Hope to have both of them back for another go around next time. But I think that'll take us to the end for today. So thanks again for listening, and we hope you enjoy it. Talk to you later.
As always, check out the blog, Confessions of an American Soccer Junkie.
Oh, yes,
and
of course.
Follow me at Twitter at SAF5109.
You can follow me at PopkoDKG or the blog at US_Soccer Junkie. And you can follow Matt Gibbons at Matt Gibbons 89. Thanks again, and catch you on the flip side.